Inside at last.
Welcome, fellow Teffers, to Inside at Last, the one and only thief-dedicated podcast. My name is Alex, and today are my fellow friends back for since what, August or something like that. It's NICKED Nex and Siggity Psychosis. And today we have a very special guest again, I think, as always. It's an honor. Today it's NICKED Nick Dablin. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Getting by as best I can.
Thanks for joining us today and taking your time. And guys, welcome back as well. I'm very happy that we would do this in our gang again.
Yeah, it's the gang's back. It's good.
Indeed, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Before we jump into it, Psychosis just some weeks ago was again taking part in the Games Done Quick with Thief 2, finally. And yeah, you did a pretty good run, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it went well for kind of what we were going for, just to show off the game.
Yeah. At one point you had to cheat, like take a quick or save state, but it was okay. It's just for showing, but it was cool. It was really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I had fun.
So check it out. We posted it on Twitter and somewhere else. It's on YouTube. So, but back to our main guest, Nick. Today we are going to talk about Malazar's Inscrutable Tower. A mission that I really appreciated, or we do, and that's why we've chosen this one. But before we get into that, please tell us a bit about you, who you are, maybe where you are, what you're doing, and yeah.
So I'm in Lincoln in the UK. I've been playing Thief since it was new, pretty much. I seem to recall getting the demo on a disc back when it was brand new, and being very, very scared just playing Bafford's Manor, teenager, however old I was at the time. And then it really sort of fueled my interest in making levels and stuff like that. Did a lot of messing about when Dromed was first, and also for some other games as well. I did a lot of messing about trying to make Half-Life levels and stuff like that, but Thief was the one I kept coming back to, and a few years later actually released my first mission and been doing it ever since.
May I ask how old you are? Because I think it's always very interesting, to put in context, how young were you when you first played the game?
So I'm 35 now, so I must have been about 13.
Yeah.
This came out. So I was at exactly the right age to appreciate it, I think.
Yeah, I was 11 and I'm 33 now, so should be 13. We talked a lot about this, how scary it was at that age. But you did a lot of missions actually. Last year, when we started to talk about this episode to do it, I was replaying all your missions in order where they were released in 2 days. And it was really interesting because you could really see the steps you made and how you improved over from mission to mission. And I really appreciated that. It was very interesting.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm glad it was an improvement. I haven't got worse.
Huge improvement, I would say. But you have to start somewhere, and I think there's a lot of things where you can see, this is, even if I wouldn't know that you are the author, I could be like, this is like typical Nick one, So, but we will get into that later. So you released quite a few missions in the last couple of months. It was The Violent End of Duncan Malveine, is that right?
Yeah.
Name? Then you already came up with Malazar's Tower, and now you just released a mission for the last 1 million units contest. So my first question is, how can you have such a huge output? Where does it come from, and all the creativity?
Well, I mean, last year, the big helper was time. Just situation. I'm now working from home for the time being, so I've got a lot more time that I would have spent commuting. So I just sort of used that to dive into Thief. And what with that and just not being able to go anywhere because it ended up
Right.
just being my go-to thing to tinker with. So I ended up just putting out loads last year.
Malveine was originally supposed to be like for the contest, correct? And then it kind of
Yeah,
got
so that
too
one,
big for its own boots or whatever.
yeah, definitely. So ready for the Thief 2 anniversary contest, and then I wasn't going to hit that deadline, and it was too ambitious for its own good, so I ended up taking a bit longer.
It was worth it, I would say. I think you would have made a really high place at the results, I can imagine. But yeah, the mission was great anyway. I loved it. I know there's some divided opinions, I think. But I really liked it. And that's actually the mission I wanted to talk about in the first place. But then you already came with Malazar, and I played the beta. I was part with Psychosis. And then I was like, oh no, I want to talk about this. This has so many amazing little things in it that that have to be mentioned, or I have questions, or we have questions about. So yeah, so let's get into Malazar. How did you come up with the idea? What was your inspiration? Because I could think of some.
So I think my original, the original spark was playing one of the Thief 2 anniversary missions, Where the Unknown Lurks, I think it was called.
By skating.
And
Yep.
yeah. And it's amazing opening section where you started on like this old castle walkway through the woods going up to this tower. And I just thought that was really atmospheric and amazing. So the first thing I did was just basically try and recreate that in Dromed and see what it looked like. And then from basically shamelessly plagiarizing that, I then thought, oh, okay, what sort of story could I come up with that's like an abandoned tower in the woods? That was like the original thinking behind it.
Very interesting. That was the mission where you had to find that secret entrance with those statues up. You had to turn around, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the mission. It was like a mansion on top of like a mountain, sort of.
Yeah, and it was split in two parts, right? There was the main house and the little tower thing on the left.
Yeah, it was kind of strange in that like the vast majority of the mission was completely optional and you could skip it if you didn't pay enough attention to how to access that area, which was a bold choice.
Yes, we talked about it in the contest episode.
It was mainly just that first sort of exterior walk up to that and how atmospheric that was that really got me.
I kind of noticed that when I played Malazar. The beginning was like very similar, but I thought it was just kind of coincidence because I figured you were working on Malazar for at least a year or more.
Oh
but
no, I knocked that out in about
I think you cranked it out in like 3 months actually. Yeah.
I'll have to have a look, see how long it actually took me. It was about 3 or 4 months, I think.
But then you gave it your own twist because it's a pretty fantastic atmosphere in there, you know, with a lot of resemblance to things that we know from literature and movies and stuff like that. So, like, was it your goal to put things like that together and create something very creative and something what people might remember from their childhood or something? Because that was my impression.
I don't think I was consciously trying to reference any one thing. Here and there, definitely had some of the rooms are definitely, you know, properly influenced by one thing or another. But overall, the idea was just, let's see how crazy we can get if we turn off and let this tower just be insanely big and have magic in it.
Yeah. So you start at that point you just described, And then you see the tower and you see some statues that might be something to talk about later. And then you enter. And what I really liked is that you come to the tower, it's mysterious. At first you think like, that's really small. So there you imagine like, oh, there's a huge underground part maybe. Spoilers to everybody. Play the mission first before you listen. So and then you stand in front of that door and there's like, that little sign that says like Malazar, it's like as if he gets like packages or something from the post, and that I really like that. And then you enter, you get up the stairs, and suddenly your blackjack is gone. At least for me, I saw that because I always have it outside. And then the blackjack is gone, and suddenly a huge world opens up, which is really impressive. And I have one question, because I'm not very good at the technical stuff. Maybe the others are better at that and know it already. But so I think at the staircase, there's a teleport, right? That teleports you to the main area. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a seamless teleport, essentially. So it maintains the player's position and rotation and momentum, but moves.
Yeah. Is it I can't remember exactly how those are done. Is it done with a room brush? Do you use like a different
For actually
object?
triggering
don't
it,
remember.
I think
Yeah.
in some places I use room brush triggers. In others,
Mhm.
I use bounce triggers. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a few different ways of triggering it because I had different space requirements in different places.
Right.
But once I'd figured out how
Yes.
to do one, I was like, right, I've got to put this everywhere.
But is that pretty new? Because I saw it in pretty recently in some missions. It was that one at which was like a museum. I cannot recall the name, but it was
The
pretty beautiful.
Hilbert's Hotel?
Oh yeah, right. The heist at Hilbert's Hotel, right?
There's that
and
infinite stairwell, isn't there? Yeah, that's
right.
really
And I
clever.
was always like, yeah. And you used it also
In the
at another
elevator,
place in the
yeah.
mission, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few different points where you teleport sort of without visibly seeing it.
Yeah, it's in the where you get up and down with that pool room,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And what else was there with a teleport?
there's some more subtle ones, like just some of the curving hallways actually transport you to somewhere completely different,
Right.
so that I could
Because
just overlap spaces essentially.
I was wondering, like, if there is one, because I wasn't sure if I was, making the map in my head and was like, is this working, like, from the architecture, like, or is it also a teleport? Yeah, great. So, but yeah, you really did it in a great way, and yeah, when you then come up the stairs and you're presented by this really beautiful room, with the chimney and on the left, and with fire, and there's a kitchen area, and you get really curious, like what's going on, because it's very welcoming. Actually, the mission doesn't
Yeah,
put
well,
you under a lot of stress or something.
that was very deliberate. I wanted to make that opening room feel like he's not expecting a break-in. It's just like living space. And that was almost entirely inspired by Howl's Moving Castle. Don't know if you've seen that Studio Ghibli film.
Ah, yeah.
Interesting
So-
that you
Anime.
mentioned that you wanted to the entrance to be welcoming, because as soon as you look at the title and you see the first setting, the wizard's tower in the forest, I was immediately expecting something to happen. Even the statues outside, which are just normal statues, I was just going so carefully about them. I didn't want the wizard to trick me, and the teleporter at the start, I didn't have the blackjack outside, so to me, I would have not noticed it because it's done absolutely seamlessly. But,
That's a beginner's mistake,
Yeah,
I think,
always have it out.
really slowly through the boundaries of those teleports, you can just about see it happening. But yeah, I did try very carefully to make sure all the textures matched on both ends of it, so there wasn't any seams.
Yeah, I mean,
it's amazing done.
the only reason why I noticed that was because I sort of started rushing in because I found the doors and I just wanted to explore inside, but I went a few steps up and I thought, I really should explore outside. Maybe I've missed something. I don't want to backtrack. So I descend the stairs and, suddenly I'm in a different place. And it was that was the first, moment where I was, okay, now I really am in the Wizards Tower. It was very impressive.
Yeah, I did think for a while, like it definitely was a consideration. The fact that once you've hit that teleport and you go back down the stairs, you because originally I was thinking, do I want to do that, or do I want to leave people to be free to come and go as they want, and sort of go back through that teleport? But ultimately, I think it works better as it does, because it sort of forces you to think, okay, now I'm going to have to try and find a way to escape from this situation.
Actually, I thought the same. Like, if there wouldn't be a purpose for Garrett to go through all of this, if you just could walk back out of the main door. So it was a very clever choice.
Yeah.
I guess my first instinct was it would be really impressive if you could just go back and forth and be like, oh, giant inside, outside, small tower, and sort of go back and forth and look at that. But it works without needing to be able to go back and see it.
Yeah, and what I really love about the first area or the second area, it's the end, what we just described, the room, that it really looks inhabited. Like someone just cooked there or was using this place. It looked very believable in a way that I don't see too often in Thief missions. And then there's the first thing where I'm like, why did you decide to do that? You can find a key in there, which is pretty important actually. But are you an evil guy to hide it in such a way? Because I thought, like, I stumbled upon it by accident really pretty early, but I thought, like, oh man, many might have problems with that. Was that the case?
Yeah, the key between the firewood. Yeah. So, I mean, the idea, if you're sort of playing it as intended in inverted commas, is that you don't find that key when you table in the next room telling you that it's in the wood pile. But I just thought, like, originally I was going to have it where it wasn't there and it would teleport in later, but I didn't want to, like, I wanted it to be there so that it could sort of explore a bit further before getting to that point. But yeah, I wasn't too worried about it being hard to find, because later in the mission I do tell the player exactly where it is.
Right. I think it's better to, like, I thought it was a pretty good decision to kind of give the players who are, like, more astute. I don't know how to word it. Yeah, like more.
Yeah, you're not so native
meticulous.
with English.
More meticulous and, like, kind of, like, look a little bit more, and sort of reward for finding it.
But you can't really. It's still a mission in some sense, because you can't actually get any further in. Like, you can open the library, but you can't do anything in the library until you've gone the
pretty much
intended route.
So yeah, there might be some silence sometimes, because sometimes we don't know if someone's lagging out or not. That's why, I try to cut that, but maybe it doesn't work all the time.
Yeah, no worries.
Is there anything about that first area you guys want to mention that really was stuck on your minds?
I thought it was a very cozy. It kind of sets a good mood for the rest of the mission, because it was a very cozy sort of like a kitchen sort of area, if I remember correctly, if that's what it was, with the giant fireplace. It definitely, but, like, you could tell something was off, because especially, like we said earlier, when you go up the tower, like, from the outside, you're like, okay, that looks rather unimposing, and then you get up, and then the room is about, like, 2 or 3 times bigger than it looked on the outside. And it kind of like lets you know, like, no, like, something's, this mission ain't what you thought it was. It's going to be very
Yeah, it was very
Interesting.
important to make sure that room
Mhm.
was big, like big enough that
Yeah,
you could
exactly.
certain that it wasn't inside the actual physical same space for the effect. But yeah, I'm glad you found it cozy. That was the intended experience. Feel like a sort of safe space. But
Right.
you end up cycling back through that room a couple of times. Feels like, okay, yeah, this is the safe beginning area sort of thing.
Feels like the Resident Evil rooms, you know, with the typewriter.
Yeah.
A bit, you know, because there's no enemy around, and in general, if you don't f it up, enemies won't get you there or get to that place. And yeah, when I was going through there, I was like, oh yeah, here I'm safe mostly. I thought.
Yeah, I think you can get chased into there, but yeah, the mood was wonderful.
You can actually. You can get chased if you're really stupid. You can, but yeah, I don't want to mention them yet because they are, I think, my biggest highlight. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, but at that time, yeah, then you get the key, and then you get. That was a bit hard to find for some people, I guess. You know, later where you need to find the switch up that teleports you to another thing again. You know what I mean? It's a staff. I think you push.
So what from the kitchen? You have to sort of cycle
you
around.
go, yeah, and then you pretty early get into the vent system, right?
Yes, yeah, and you climb up the fireplace and into the room that's sort of behind the kitchen, and you can sort of see between the pipes, and it's almost like a behind the scenes kind of room.
Yeah, and then there's a dead end, and then
Yes, yeah.
you have to push. It's lighted really well with the I think was it green, right, or red, and then you have to push the staff above your head. And I think some players had troubles finding that, right?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone got stuck finding that. It's sort of the only way you can go at that point, I think. But yes, that was the point where I was like, okay, is that things aren't as they seem, and there's going to be a lot of magic trickery because you sort of pull that staff and it starts laughing at you and teleports you somewhere, and it's very much this is the start of the tricks and traps.
Yeah, and at that point, I was a bit like I was thinking, oh no, it's becoming like a horror themed mission, you know. And I hate those, and I was like, oh no, it started so great, but I was wrong, so luckily, and then then we come, I think, to the one of the most memorable areas, because first you are in that room, and then you find that another readable, and wasn't the chest with I think it was endless arrows, right?
Yes, yeah. So I had it set up so that you could just take as many arrows as you want, because if you ran out of arrows, you would be stuck at that point.
Yeah, I think in beta that was the case, right? Like,
yeah, I think
you were
can only
stuck
get like
there.
one or two.
originally you could, and
Yeah.
But since there's nothing you can kill through conventional means, it kind of didn't matter that you could just take infinite arrows, because there's only so much you can do with them.
Yeah, but you have to find out, and I know one of the people that are in this conversation asked me, like, "Hey, what do I do there?"
Because if people don't know, or if people can't remember, you had to shoot the arrow on like a sort of old lock, if I remember correctly, to break it.
On a window.
Yeah, the window that had like the rusty lock. And I wasn't sure, because that's I don't know if that's like a bit of an unusual mechanic, but it's not
I would
something that's
say.
normally seen.
It's certainly,
So
I don't think it's the average way of doing things.
Yeah. So I got stuck there. Are you happy? Supremacy.
It's the sort of thing you'd have in a point and click adventure, which was kind of the other the other kind of
Yeah.
reference point I would make is I was going for that sort of inventory puzzle 90s point and click kind of style of gameplay.
Yeah,
for a
it
lot of
definitely felt like that.
But
sure.
but it was reasonable. You know, the what you're doing is actually pretty normal thinking. You know, but since it's not done in Thief usually, it's like, you know, out of the box thinking in Thief
I
style.
think that's it. If you'd probably played this as a standalone game, you'd probably figure it out fairly quickly. But because we're used to like how Thief missions normally work, it's maybe more outside of the box than you normally think for a Thief mission.
Right.
Yeah, and there's also a little hallway where you can already see another part which you will see later, right? With the gate. Was it the fire room, the caves? I think you can see from there as well, right?
Into the swimming pool room, and then you can also go and down through the other door and into the like you say, the fire room and the lava area.
Yeah, with the demon. And yeah, and at that point something happened in this hallway because I was opening the window and then I was of course checking everything, you know, as you do as a thief guy. And there's a statue like next to the window.
In
And
the greenhouse room, I think. Or
no,
in the hallway with
it's
the
the first statue is in the hallway.
Yeah.
And you know, I was like, do I jump through the window, or maybe there's another way to open one of the gates or something like that? And suddenly I hear this strange kind of breathing sound in my neck. And I was like, no. And then I got hit. And and because I noticed, you know, of course I was checking the statue when it was standing there. Like, okay, it already made that sound. And it was like, really creepy, but hey, it's a mage's tower, you know, strange things here, okay. But then, yes, this statue was suddenly behind me. And I didn't really realize how the mechanics worked. So I went on. So please let me tell the story, because this is how I figured out how the things work. So I went on, and you jump over that in that little garden, and then you open up, and then you climb up on the roof and go through that little room with the mushrooms, and then you get into the greenhouse that you just mentioned. And then again, I realized, okay, there's the statue in there, and it's kind of like moving, but I didn't get really how it worked. So I jumped out from the balcony and then went over to the room where you built the staff with the snake head. And the statue followed me onto the first balcony. Then I felt safe on the roof, jumping into the other room. And then I was in the room and was checking all the beautiful heads and, you know, the figurines that were standing there. And suddenly the door opened, like behind my back. Like, what? So the effect was so intense, and suddenly this statue is standing there. So she realized, okay, he's climbing over to that room, and then she was following and really fast, was getting me. And then I was like, damn, but she didn't move when I looked at her. How did you come up with that, and how did you build that into the mission? How does that work for idiots, please?
How does it work? It's basically a thing. When it detects, it tells it to freeze, and when it's off screen, it just reverts to normal AI. So that, like, whenever you look at it, it should instantly freeze. And it's all done through script. I can't remember exactly how I set it up, but yeah, it worked a lot better than I was first anticipating when I first started experimenting with it.
Yeah, I kind of got spoiled, like, that this would be a mechanic in the mission, because I remember you were posting on the forums asking for help on how to set it up.
Yeah.
And when I played the mission and then I saw the first statue, I was like, oh, it's gonna be like the Doctor Who episode where, like, when you're not looking at them, they just decide to start, you know, walking. And think so. I wasn't as scared as Supremacy was, so take that.
I'm a pussy,
But,
you know. But
But I
yeah.
mean, they got me when I replayed for last week for this podcast. It made me because
Really?
yeah, there are a lot of places where they can sort of chase you where you wouldn't even think the pathfinding can lead them there, and then you turn around and there's one right in your face. Yeah,
But next,
I got myself.
how did you find out the mechanics, and how did you like it? What was your impression of that?
Well, first of all, I thought the implementation of this was brilliant, and it was questioning how this wasn't done anywhere, the last 20 years that it could be. But at first, I of course I didn't notice it. I didn't. It's a very narrow hallway where you meet the first statue. Seeing the statue, and I saw the window, it didn't seem like it was necessarily going to be openable, so I decided to go left first. And of course, returning back, if the statue had seen me, it must have reset back to its original position. So I went to the window, and yeah, a similar thing happened. I realized my headphones were a little bit too. The volume was too high because it made me jump a lot, and you really die instantly there. But that's where the fun began. I knew something was up with the statue, and then there was it was a very fun 15 to 20 minutes where I was just exploring how it works. It took me some time to realize that it only moves whenever you're looking away. But yeah, I mean, it was brilliant. But if I could change something, it would be that the window wouldn't be necessarily quite near the statue, or not as close to it.
Yeah.
Just so you get, because the perfect situation, and this is, I'm nitpicking here, right? I'm satisfied with how it is, but if it wasn't this close, it would give the player a chance to sort of look back and see the thing in motion before, you die, right?
Yes.
And you could get through it without, reloading the state. But yeah, other than that, once I figured that out, for some reason, I knew that the statue worked this way, and I spent some time with it. But whenever I found the next statue and the statue after that, for some reason the brain just didn't go. All statues are like this, and I kept turning my back towards the statues, just looking, because the latter ones didn't kill me, but I didn't want to. It felt like it's sort of like breaking your ghost mode, right? You don't want the statue to see you at all, right?
Yeah. And
But yeah, I really enjoyed
it. Dodge most of them if you know the replay. You can usually get away without alerting some of them. I don't think you
only
can
the first one.
But
To one
Only
thing,
the first one.
next you just said, I see your point, but on the other hand, I just think that the positioning of the statue next to the window is pretty effective, because I noticed that there is a breathing sound or something like that in it. So I was very suspicious about this thing, And I think then it's like, even if you know how the statue works, it's like you have to get, next to her. And you always look at her, and move strange, and it gives you really uncomfortable feeling, So I think the positioning works in that way.
Yeah, I'll give you that. It's definitely thinking back, I did not realize the breathing sound, or maybe I did. It did not click that there's something suspicious. But honestly, like I said right at the beginning, even when you're outside the tower, I am immediately suspicious of statues. I don't like them. So I'm always trying to avoid going too close to one, but yeah, that kind of does force you to go close to that. So that's definitely a good side of that.
I think that's it as well. And if by doing that you have to get super close to it,
Right.
it means that you know that you can be safe next to them as long as you can see it. So
Yep.
like I feel like if it was further away, then next time you met one you might miss something because you were too afraid to go near the statue.
Yeah.
But one thing I
Right.
didn't understand, because if you didn't open the window, or maybe you couldn't find out how to open it at this point, so you are like roaming around in the hallway, and it's not really really big, you know, it's a pretty tight space, and especially when you are in the back of it, where you get to the fire room, let's call it that, or where you can see it. If it follows you there, isn't it a bit tight, you know, to run away or, you know, to hide, because you cannot hide there?
The great
Well-
thing there is I know what hallway you talk about. It's where you grab the staff head
Oh, right,
or
right, correct.
or the shaft, whatever. Once you grab it, the statue kind of gets docile and returns to where it was.
Well, the
okay.
the
So-
reason is that that's another invisible teleport. So you're actually far enough away that the AI thinks
Ah,
it's you. And just,
clever
Ah.
you.
Look at you. Okay, I thought it was triggered by the staff grab.
no, there's no hard trigger to it. It's just that you've moved far enough away that the AI gives up.
Ah,
Very interesting.
Okay.
Good that I mentioned it. Yeah, yeah, but this, I think this is like the one mechanic that really impressed players. I can imagine. Like when you
And-
go over the forums, I think people mentioned this a lot. In the beta test, it was mentioned.
And yeah, and I like that. I think this was a beta test suggestion that later on, the statues actually patrol after you've seen them the first time, because the first two I think are in their stationary positions, and when you lose them, they just go back to them, and it kind of gives the player like a little bit of like a false sense of security. And then, but then later on, once you see one, the rest of them start patrolling, and they have like set routes, I believe.
No,
Can't
it was. I think it
Said
didn't do
it,
it.
Definitely
was
went back
suggested,
and forth
but-
on that a few times. Yeah,
Wait, what happened? Sorry.
I think they all are static in the end. But
Oh,
I
did you
definitely
go back
tried
on
them
that?
with- I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. See, I didn't play the
You
release
decided
version.
not to do it because there was a lot of, you know, some people wanted it, but I think a lot of us have been against it, and then you decided the right way, and you didn't implement it, if I'm right.
I think
I
the
can
problem with
interject here.
where I put them all was that if they were patrolling, you'd end up with situations where they would just inadvertently block a doorway or something, and it would end up being quite frustrating. I think that's what ended up tipping me back to just leaving them static.
Right.
Yep, this was one of your arguments. I remember that.
Right.
Yeah,
I
I
do
can see.
remember.
I can see what would be really interesting about that, or surprising, you know. And suddenly your comfort zone is again, you know, you have to step out of it. But I'm happy with the way they work now. Next,
Yeah,
you wanted to say
I
something?
think the only
Yeah.
other. Oh no, go ahead.
I know you were talking about the patrolling. I did think that the statues were patrolling because the one in the what's it called, the where the mushrooms are, you go to the left and jump down to the
Green room or
green room. Yeah,
Yeah,
I had to reload a couple of times, and I saw that statue there in two different positions while not alerted, and I thought, if I'm not looking at it, then it has to be patrolling. And I think I spent like 15 minutes there, just going far away, waiting some time, going back to see if it moved, because I really wanted it to be in the other position where I saw it once, but not later on. So-
I think they sometimes just not effectively get back to their starting position. That was my experience, but I haven't seen them patrolling.
probably what it is. Yeah, they should always try to go back to their starting point.
All right.
But I don't think they can always manage it 100%.
I guess that.
But it also works as a creepy feeling, you know. So and it obviously it gives players different impressions on the statues. So maybe, you know, it's still not solved, you know, the riddle behind them.
Yes, I mean some people were definitely
Yeah,
complaining that they couldn't kill them. People definitely wanted to take out those statues.
You know, those guys would knock out every enemy in the mission. It's
Who would do that?
disgusting.
You know?
Yeah, it makes me angry. No, but really, those statues are one of many elements that are really memorable from that mission. And I think this is a thing that you can only do once. Every other person now, and I imagined like at that point, like, oh, just imagine another guy, another author came up with the idea, but his mission isn't released yet, you know, and now his amazing idea is already done, you know, and he's like copying it like for people, you know.
Oh, I don't think people would stop at that if they had.
Yeah, but now you know, people already know how it works, you know.
Yeah,
So
true.
the effect is gone, you know. So this is really, you took a once of a lifetime thing and you did it. So I think, you know, in 40 years you can tell your grandchildren, you know, once I did it.
They'll be like,
Yeah,
like,
when they are still on the forums, you know, and
sit down,
and
I'll educate you.
yeah, and listen to this, and I'm still sitting here alone, you know, and doing this podcast. Yeah, no, but they are really great. So another thing is, in general, with that mission, is how beautiful it is. I know Next you thought that, you know, the textures I use, they look ugly, but I
Yes.
really think, and I replayed it just with normal Thief textures, and it's still very beautiful. I really like it, and of course, that's really amazing. There are so many things, you know, that walk into another, and then of course you needed those teleports, so things would actually work, because from the architecture it wouldn't if you build it normally. Yeah, it's really impressive. But also, what I really like about this mission, and that is something that normally people don't like in a Thief game, because the Thief game is about. The Thief mission is about freedom, you know, different ways to enter, different ways to go. When do I do what? But here it's pretty streamlined, I think, because of the progress you make with solving a puzzle, and then you can get to that area. But here it didn't feel like, you know, that something is taken away from me, but it still felt like a journey, you know, like a great ride. And there's something new to see, and I want to go there now. You know, I want to know what's there. So, have you been aware of that? You're like cutting a bit of the Thief freedom, but
Yeah,
was
very
it
much
intentional?
so. That was definitely one of the pillars of the design. Was when I knew I was going to do a sort of puzzle-focused linear mission, was to basically make sure that everything felt as interconnected as possible. So you were constantly looping back around. You could see places that you couldn't get to yet, you knew you'd get to later. All of that kind of stuff to keep you interested, so it didn't just feel like a linear series of rooms. Even though the progression is linear, I wanted to make the level feel as non-linear as possible within those constraints.
Yeah, and you can feel that you were successful with that, I would say.
I mean, basically, I was trying to make a mission like Haplo would make. I don't know if you've played any of his missions.
Yeah,
Good couple. He's made
Yeah,
like
I think,
Darkness Walk With Us.
yeah, that was
Was
the
his
one
most
from
recent
the
one.
Thief
Yeah.
1 anniversary content. And that one, I really liked the way that, you could see sort of puzzle solutions through a barrier or something, and knew that you had to find another way round to get to there. Stuff
Right.
like that.
what I'm wondering is, like, how does one person, you know, plan this in their head and then also, you know, execute it in that way? You know, how much time is your concepting taking?
I mean, I just built it. I didn't really plan it. I rarely do.
But would you guys
Yeah.
agree that that it feels really planned, like someone really put a lot of thought about it?
It felt more like stream of conscious to me. Like it kind of just he was like, okay, well, what kind of rooms would connect to this, and like how can I make them kind of cool? It doesn't seem like it's because it's trying to give off the impression like it's like a wacky. Well, it's not the best word to use, but sort of like a unsettling tower that's just kind of you don't know where the next room or the next door is going to take you because it's teleporting you all around. So I could definitely see that it actually wasn't planned. I feel like it was just kind of like what would be the next coolest thing to make.
Exactly. That's basically how I made it, and it was a lot of
Right.
fun doing it. Because I was just like, cool room. I can just throw it in anywhere because it's a magic tower, and you can have any room anywhere.
So I'm even more impressed now because like thinking of all the rooms you've done, then there's that fire room where there's the demon that shoots fire at you, and you need to find out how to kill him. And then you have that, and I think this is one of the most amazing rooms I've ever seen in a thief mission. That Asher picture inspired maze. That was really amazing and impressive.
with all the stairways. Yeah.
Where the room
and-
keeps like flipping, you mean, and stuff?
Yeah, and what I really loved about this, so it's like for people that don't know, I think it's Asher, right? With those endless stairs that wouldn't be possible in real life, and then of course in your mission they have to be possible in some way. But the way you made the architecture, it really plays with your mind. And what I really like is that the room is just telling you by certain symbols and things. So there are those chains with those shiny gems in it, and they tell you like you can go here, or this would be deadly, or this is not the way to go. Yeah. So or at least it told me. Was it your intention? Did you do it on purpose?
Yeah,
Like
well,
the player that it's told.
if I'd known how much trouble that room was going to give me, I wouldn't have built it.
Can
It was
imagine.
really difficult. But yeah, essentially when I first built it, it was just a maze, and it was impossible to figure out how to get anywhere. So I had some level of signposting. So I think the first thing I did was change the textures on the floor and ceiling, because originally it was all the same texture on everything, and it was just impossible to find your way around it at all. It had distinctive floor and ceiling textures, and then like you say, put in the sort of crystal lights on the ceilings of the hallways leading in and out of the room, and they are color coded so that go in this direction to get to the end, and the other colors don't. And it just eventually, through a lot of fiddling about with it and trying to make it as recognizable as possible, it sort of worked. But ultimately, you can just if you just follow the one route up the stairs without doing any jumps or anything, you just get to the exit. It's a very straightforward maze, really. It just looks more complicated than it is.
And you have to get one arm, I think, from the golem that comes later, right?
Yes, yeah.
So there are 4 arms, if I'm right, because you run through 4 rooms, if I remember it correctly. But just one is grabbable, right?
Yes, yeah. So because the room isn't actually flipping, there's various different, like the arms are duplicated in each copy of the room, and then they're all just linked up so that when you pick up one, it deletes the others.
So wait, did I get it right? It's just one room, and you get teleported to different spaces, so you run through the same room again?
No, well, there's 4 different versions of the room.
Okay,
I'm looking at it. Yeah, it's like one long line of rooms that like every time it just flips with the connections between them.
Yeah, right, because that was my impression when playing it. But now,
Right.
like, I thought, like, with all the teleporting you already did, maybe this was the best solution to do it, because I could imagine it also would have worked in some way.
I have to
But
say, for the Escher rooms, I'm very happy that you color coded it and you didn't go too overboard with it. Because as soon as I walked into that room and I saw that there are, do you know the movie Cube?
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like as soon as I got in there, I was like, oh no. And I went to grab a drink and went to the bathroom because I knew I had a feeling I'm gonna be there a while and I'm not gonna be happy. But I got in time and I was like, oh, actually, it was well done. It wasn't because that one could easily.
That's it. I had originally was to make it actually playable.
Hmm.
And I mean, the other big challenge with that room was the fact that there are so many different hallways leading off it that I had to go the wrong way, because otherwise I would need to be a genius to figure out all of the different teleports in all different directions to get between the different types of rooms. So that's why there's like lava on the ceiling of one tunnel, so that if you approach it the wrong way, you step in the lava and stuff like that.
yeah, color coding actually was the right word. Next, you just said it. That's what I meant with that the room tells you like what is the best. Stop, don't go here, and yeah, really impressive. And I think you found the right length to it. It wasn't too complicated as when I entered, I had the same feeling as Next, like, oh my god, no, this will be a really bad riddle now. But actually, it was really enjoyable. You just had to figure out quickly, like, okay, how does it work? Where do I go? You trial and error maybe a bit with that that blue electrical things or whatever. It's magical, I think.
Coils. Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, I died once and then okay, got it. Because when you have a theme like that, sometimes I'm like, okay, obviously this is a deadly thing, but maybe in this surrounding, maybe something else happens. Because I was already confronted by so many unusual things in this mission that I was like, you get suspicious at everything.
Right.
Sorry, what? I didn't hear that.
You were already thinking too much out of the box.
Yeah, and that's your fault. Whoever puts a lock in front of a window that you have to shoot with an arrow, I don't trust you anymore.
Yeah.
No, but that room was great, but that I remember that from the beta. You almost had the same problem that we feared in the Azure room. First, I had at the library because the library it's a tower library and you have to teleport at different parts to another level, and then I think some people mentioned that it's pretty disorientating sometimes and very frustrating. And I think it was me that mentioned like maybe you could just put like somewhere where this teleport leads you to which level of the library, right?
Yeah, and that definitely helped a lot in terms of just because it was originally supposed to be you look at the color of the fireplaces hanging in the middle and then
of course
and then match that to the color of the particles of the teleporter, but it just wasn't obvious enough, and so you just went around in circles.
Yeah.
So I think,
and when I made the suggestion and you implemented it, I thought like, okay, now he's just made like those golden signs, and then you click on it, and the little white text appears above in the HUD. But no, you really made like really beautiful, letters. They were shiny. Yeah, that's a really cool execution of that. So yeah, but as we know you by now, by your last missions, you don't go cheap. You go. So welcome back. Next, we are at the lettering in the library. Like
Thank you.
how it's how it was pulled off to give some orientation where the teleports bring you. And this library, this had later there was that riddle, that puzzle where you have to get one object, but as soon as you grab it and have it in your inventory, the exit is closed, so you cannot get out. And what I really liked, I was not clever enough to figure it out on my own. I think I asked you in the chat how to do it, but then you have to lean in. So for the people who don't know, you have to imagine there is that huge library and it's a huge tower. So like letters A to C have one level and so on. And in the middle of that tower, there's you run around in circles. It's just a circle you can walk, and in the middle there's like fences and like a huge tube that leads down, right? And at that place I just described, where you have to pick up that object and the exit closes, there is a window that leads to the middle tube, and you have to throw that object in there so it falls down all the way down to the last level of the library. And then the exit opens again, and you can leave that area, which was really clever, I thought.
It's clever, but I think that's definitely one of the more obscure puzzles in the level. I think that's where most people got stuck, if they were going to get stuck.
But if you know the solution, it's like, oh, damn it, of course. There's that window. Like, how stupid can you be? Like, it was actually pretty obvious.
I remember watching Fen doing a Let's Play of it, and he got stuck there for ages, and I was properly screaming at my monitor, looking at him. Just like, drop it through the hole.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like, ha ha ha.
I mean,
yeah.
believe it or not, I did not have the issue with dropping it in the hole or getting stuck anywhere in the mission, but
Boiler hole.
the library, when I first entered it, and I knew immediately that it's a library, but the I don't know which letters you see for the portal. I thought that was some sort of a puzzle, and I started running around looking for the other letters, and I saw there's only M and N written on the pillars, and I thought maybe there's a button. I was running around, and then I actually exited the library, and then later on when I returned to it, I realized that those are actually portals that I can walk through, because I was trying to use my staff on it. I was trying to arrows in it, a lot of stuff.
Were you looking for a froppable book?
Yeah, I was. Oh, and
then I can imagine, like, oh damn. But screw you, Nick.
I mean, at the first part, right? I did not know that I can go through the portals, or that they are portals. So all I had to examine was just one round thing. When I realized that they are portals, and I saw that there's many stairs, at that point I knew, okay, well, let's start with A and go all the way to and check all of the books.
But that's why I like watching videos of people playing my missions. It's like the most brilliant way of finding out what you've designed well and what you haven't designed well. Just seeing where people get stuck, like it's really interesting to me. And of course, just having the mission beta.
I mean, I wouldn't always say that. Sorry if I interrupt. I wouldn't always say that people getting stuck is necessarily the author's fault, because.
Oh no, definitely not. And I mean,
yeah.
in Sturmdrang Peak, there's like.
Sorry,
really
you were
obvious door.
lagging. Can you repeat that, please?
In Sturmdrang Peak, there was a bit where there was a really obvious door, or what I thought was obvious, and I watched a video and they just ran around the whole level for 20 minutes because they just walked right past the door and they were just running around lost for ages. and it was really frustrating. And
Was it in the
Yeah.
village or at the castle?
yeah, it was a door in the village in the first main mission.
Because
To
it
get
rings
into
a bell. It rings a bell.
yeah, and so to make it even more obvious.
Yeah, but I think that's always the problem. Like when you design something, you know you have a different mindset, of course, and you know what you created. But as you said, even your statues, gave you the creeps when you replayed them some months later. It's the same thing. Like when you're creating a song, and you maybe pronounce something in a certain way, and you're like, oh, people will get it, and nobody gets it.
Yeah,
That's always a thing. I think it's always creator against consumer, But that is, I actually want to say that because, as I said, I replayed like all of your missions in order. You released them, and you made some puzzle missions. Some that you could say they are like similar to Malazar's Tower. Maybe not executed as well because they were earlier in your career, I would say. But what I always liked is that you didn't give me so many puzzles where I'm like, oh damn, really, dude? That is your solution? It's in most of your missions. I found the solutions. On my own, and I'm not very good at that. So they have been pretty logical in most cases, I would say. So I would say that is one of your real strengths as an author for puzzle missions.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to hear that. It's definitely a balancing act, isn't it? Because you don't want it to be too easy, so that it's just obvious what to do, like push the button. But then full balance of challenge to make the player feel clever for figuring it out, but not be so hard that it's frustrating. Yeah, that's the real trick.
Yeah, and people are different, and as I didn't have a problem with the window, but I can imagine, like as we said, like in the Thief universe, maybe people are like in their bubble. And in another game, as you said, like maybe they would have done that thing, but here they didn't expect it. So there's so many factors that you can count in. And I think you will never do the perfect puzzle mission for everybody.
Well, I mean, trying to please everyone all of the time, that's never going to end well. Everyone's always there's going to be some people that don't like it or just get stuck. Or yeah, you can't always fix those things, but
yeah,
it's fun to try.
Maybe Alcazar and Into the Odd. Maybe that's the only missions that have been perfect to everybody. But I think that's just some few gems. No, we will do a contest episode next month, so we will see. Yeah, I'm wondering because we are now. I've been at the library. We have been at the Asher room. I think we described the fire room a bit, right? So next, you have a really long list as well from your things, and I don't want to, rush over those things. So, is there other things you want to mention by now, or?
There's one thing I can think of right now, and it's when I was playing with these statues later on. We could talk after this about the mop. The mop I thought was very lovely.
That's a sad story, but we will come to that.
All right. When I was playing with statues, the hall that the mop is blocking, there's a statue there as well, and right next to the statue, there's an entrance to a room where we get a book. I think there's instructions on how to finish or do some stuff.
The golem, I think.
Exactly.
The golem, yeah.
And I thought, maybe I can cheat the AI, right? And I thought, I'll go into the room. I'll leave the door open. I'll climb on top of the open door, and I'll just wait there. I should be in perfect, or at least near perfect dark. Actually, I think it was in perfect darkness, since I turned the lights off. But the statue would never, no matter how long, because the funny thing is, with these statues, you mustn't look at them, right? Because
Yeah.
they'll just be still, right? So you have to look away and wait, And
Yeah.
I was experimenting a lot with the statues. They were the highlight of the mission for me, and it was so funny because every time, I was very into it. I was excited, but I had to look away, right? And I spent so many minutes just looking away into some corner trying to achieve something. Well, with this statue here, the statue just wouldn't go away. Would never stop searching for me. It would stay at the. Is this something that is a byproduct of the script, or?
There's nothing particularly special about the AI freezing, but in that area, it's finds that it's probably very difficult. If you have alerted the enemy, it's probably very difficult for them to calm down until you've actually left the area. Because I don't think there's any true darkness in that room either, is there?
We are talking about the dining room?
There's a
Dining room
to
and
the
where you
left.
get the sword?
Yes, yeah, the
Yeah.
little
That room,
Bedroom or whatever.
and I think that room with the statue there was a bitch, because I think that if I would say the positioning of a statue was not the best choice, it was that, because the room was pretty small and you can barely get there unseen. I had the impression, and you have that book, you have the readable, so you have to look away from the door, and then and I didn't see, because of the statue that was stressing me out, I missed the sword, because I didn't have the relaxing moment to search the room. And for me, this was like, it was doable at the end, but it was like, meh. That was, I think, the only moment where I thought it was not such a great experience in that room.
It's definitely the statue that blocks the doorway the most as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Right.
hindsight, I probably should have put it somewhere else.
And then it puts you under pressure, because then you need to that is the way that you need the sword to smash the wooden planks, and then you get to the Asher room, right? And when you smash the planks, also it's always like you look back, it's like it's it works, it sometimes, of course, you have to feel uneasy about certain things, but the room with the sword was like, meh, I didn't like that. But it's just a small side note.
And I don't know if you remember, but originally those planks weren't there, so you could just miss the sword entirely. So I put those planks in
that was in beta, yeah.
To put that as a sort of gate, so that you have to find the sword to progress after that point.
Correct, because right. Because I didn't find the sword, and you need it. When do you really need it later?
I think it's an objective, the sword, right? Like, isn't?
Right, correct. Yeah, that was right. And then I was already outside of and it was like, damn, where's the sword? What?
Yes, I think someone finished like the entire mission in beta and then didn't get the sword.
Yeah,
and they were like,
I think it was many people. But I think the way with the planks was a really easy and good idea to make the player.
Right.
Yeah, just a small blocker to make sure that you've completed what I want you to have completed by that point. I definitely think it's easier when you're making a linear mission like this to do that kind of thing. Because if you're making just a big open city mission, you have to account for people doing everything in any order possible.
Yep.
So in some ways it's easier, but in other ways it's a lot harder to make sure all the connections make sense.
Yeah, and it's not like it's completely linear. Your mission, it's
no, yeah.
There are ways of going through it.
Later it opens up, especially I think when you are in that garden where the swords are stamped, thrown into the ground or whatever, with the water runes. I don't know if I like that area. Somehow it was fun with all the jumping and finding I think it was one arm again or a leg, and but this was a very strange area.
I'm not sure
Um,
which one you're talking about. Could you
I
remind me?
think he means the outdoor area where you shoot like the water arrows to grow the beanstalks to climb
with the ruins.
with the ruins and the little river. I believe that's what he means.
Yeah, you get
Ah.
there. I think you get there by when did you get there the first time? I think isn't that when you grab the object I just explained where the exit closes, and then when you get through that exit there, you come out at that area. I think, if I'm right.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's
because
also a
at the
statue,
bottom
right?
of the library, yeah, there's like a tunnel that leads to the garden, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you come out on that rune where the door is closed, and there's a note, if I remember it correctly. And there's a note that tells you something about that gives you a bit of lore about that scenario
Yes.
or something like that. I think it explains a bit that why there are the swords. You know that it doesn't put the finger on it, but it gives you some imagination, like, oh, what happened here?
Yeah.
If I
just
remember it correctly.
about something bad happening long ago or something.
Right, and there's and the statue. I think there was also a statue in that area, and it was green, overgrown, right?
Yes, yeah, it's got moss all
Yeah,
over.
I like that. I
Sort of.
like that detail.
Since we touched this, I have a question about this. There's a line in the readables. It says it's the apprentice writing down what he thinks about Malazar, and he says he finds it a relaxing place, but it fills me with great unease knowing what happened here so long ago. So what happened?
Well, I don't know. I never figured it out. I didn't
I think
have
that's up to your imagination. Yeah, I think I like that.
It was very
Show, don't tell, you know? Yeah.
vague, yeah. But yeah, I really liked the idea
Follow-up
of
mission.
tons and tons of rusty swords just sticking in the ground. It's just a visual that I really liked the idea of. So then it just came from that, really.
That's how games like Skyrim and stuff, why people find them so intriguing, because you have so many places where you can just let your imagination play. You just get some hints, but never the whole story is told. And I think that's a very nice place because it doesn't have to do with anything you do there and have to do, but it's still, it gives you the impression, okay, the author has put a bit more thought into it, and it gives you something to think about maybe when you swim through a very long tunnel with water and stuff like that. No, but I like the statue, and then there is the most beautiful natural wall I have ever seen. You know what I mean? When you get up to the Hall of Ashes or something like that path outside, and on the left, there's a big blocky wall, because I think people could jump over there, and then you just put that in there, when I remembered correctly from the beta.
Oh, are you talking in the garden up top? There's like that wall.
Yeah,
that was because of me.
Yeah, and right, and then you just put that, like, take this, like, here's your blocked wall,
with your diagonal running speedrunner jumps, making it over there.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah,
like, well,
I really like
gotta block that off, and I was like, oh.
But if you know the process, how it went, like you were complaining or telling that it's not work, or that you can jump over there, and then in the next beta version, it's just that bam, like, okay, I solved the problem. And I was thinking like how you solved the problem with the ladders on the floor with really beautiful, really you created those animated ladders, and then there you just put that bam.
Some of the simple solutions are the best ones.
Yeah, and then of course in the context of Malazar's magic tower, it's like, yeah, maybe there's an explanation to that also,
Yeah, well, I think in my mind that whole area was sort of teleported to the tower rather than being actually outside in the world. So it kind of made sense that it had an unnatural border around it a little bit.
Of course. I totally agree. So Psychosis helped you to build the lore further. I think that was your intention, right, Psychosis?
Of course.
Yeah. Um, but to be honest, I didn't really give a damn about the story or whatever it is. It was actually Malazar seemed like a nice guy. I think the letters to his apprentice that you could read haven't been unfriendly or.
Can I interject there?
Okay, yeah, of course.
Uh,
Please.
Well, it seemed at first to me the same when I read those readables and the way the first room is cozy and welcoming and stuff like that. But there's not a lot of readers, but there's one readable that says that the apprentice Michael has been left with a spell to decipher, and when he's explaining that, Malazar says that the apprentice is slow.
Ah, yeah.
That's one thing. And then there's also another where it says that Malazar goes to the city for something. I'm not exactly sure, but in that readable, he explains that he wants to get revenge on the Mages Council. So those two readables made me think that maybe Malazar is a little bit more devious than what I initially thought.
But yeah, that was kind of need very.
What? Sorry.
I knew I didn't need very much story because it was a very
Okay.
puzzle-focused mission. But I wanted to put a sort of twist in, so all the readables you find earlier on just sort of suggest a wizard and his apprentice, and there's nothing particularly untoward. And then that final diary of his that you find, and you find out, oh, okay, actually he's a bitter, twisted person, and he's plotting to set fire to people and stuff like that. It's just a subtle bit of, I guess.
Right.
Isn't it always the case when you have a single mage somewhere in a thief mission? It's always like he's against the other mages and the mages council. I think that's a very often used
trope
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it does make it easier to steal from the guy, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
All the more reason, yeah.
I mean, I always thought that there should be a mission made where, you don't have to steal everything from everybody. Because usually, when I was playing my way, which is just trying to not get into as least of a risky situation, avoid danger at all costs. And it turned out that it's much easier to steal from the broken down and the poor than it is from the. So I end up just stealing from the poor guys and leave the big bank.
I definitely like it when you get a bit of a moral dilemma in a thief mission where there's some loot to steal, but then you find out it's like the last hope of a servant trying to escape.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're like, oh, what do I do?
Stolen. You already have stolen it, and then you read the letter.
One mission. I don't know if you guys played it. What was it called? Ascend the Dim Valley. Did this like almost perfectly with the objective of like the children. If you've played it, I don't want to spoil it because this isn't the episode for that. But wink, wink.
I remember something like that, and we talked about something like that already, I think. But please go on. We never explained it in detail.
Well, the story there is that the children are kind of like there's like two rivaling factions in the little town, and the children are used as like the
right.
What's the word? Sort of like to keep the peace, like hostages basically. And you're supposed to if you're supposed to steal the mask, that's like the main objective of the mission. And if you steal the mask, one of the kids is going to die, and then if one of the kids is going to die, the other kid's probably going to die. It's like hinted with readables, but the most clever part is like there's the objective says, like, how like every mission ends with, oh, when you finish all your objectives, return to blah blah blah, or like leave through blah blah blah. It's like the last objective was like when you think you're done. So like if you're kind of keen enough to catch on to that, you don't actually have to steal the
Yeah, I
mask.
remember that. That was amazing.
Oh, nice. Like in the King's Story with the crown.
Right, yeah, and I thought that was like probably one of the most like ingenious ways to kind of to do like to kind of handle that moral dilemma that you were just
Yeah.
talking about. Like, oh,
It's really, really neatly done because, like, it's not really any more physical work in the mission to make that happen, but it's just a really neat little touch.
right.
I think that's very interesting when a game, with polygon figures, makes you, makes you think
Question,
of those decisions, and when you, but as I said, like in this mission, the story, there was nothing that I really cared about story-wise, but it wasn't, which is not a bad thing because actually I think this is more of a playground for me. That is a mission that's just fun playing. It's all about the gameplay and the places you see and the mechanics you have to figure out and the puzzles. And actually, I thought it was a good thing that there is not, so much story. It didn't interrupt me like with observing all the letters and maybe there's a hidden raped woman somewhere and a cold room where you just see like a chair and blood on the floor and things like that you often have as a theme. I like that there is not so much about this Malazar. It's just a strange tower here.
It's not quite that dark.
What? Sorry.
It's not quite that dark.
Right, and I liked it. The theme. Actually, I felt very comfortable in the whole mission, even with the statues. But it was never much pressure. It was, but it had so many amazing places. And but one thing I just when you said the village with the children. Do you guys remember the South Park episode where the children have taken over the South Park and the adults are outside and could get in?
Yeah.
I just thought of that. Yeah. But we have to talk about what was the name of the mission you just mentioned?
The one me Ascend the Dim Valley by Dirk Bogan.
Yeah, we need. Was he the guy with the 10 little taverns?
No, that was that Balboa?
Right. But they,
Yeah.
but yeah, maybe we need to talk about that at one point. Not 10 little taverns. I mean, that valley, ascent of the dim valley. Okay, thank you. So, what else? Where do we go next, or anything we didn't cover yet so far at this point?
I got some questions still.
Oh, cool.
Maybe this is probably just a shot in the dark, but are you by any chance, or actually, have you read *Sapiens* by Yuval Noah Harari?
I have not.
You have not. All right. That was a shot in the dark. Then let's go to something that's less so. So Malazar goes into the city, and the slow apprentice is left in the tower to decipher the scroll. Have I missed the apprentice, or can we actually see the apprentice at any?
Yeah, the apprentice is the burnt to death corpse in the fire room.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's sort of, he tried to figure out spell, thought he needed to go through the fire room and use the power of the fire demon, but actually he didn't, and he just didn't understand it, and he got burnt to death for his troubles.
Yeah, that's. I think that's. He
That's what
deserved
he
that, I
gets.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, one where you say fire, I think of water, and that's also a very cool. It's a simple puzzle and very logical. When you, it's the same way you climb up the fireplace. I think later you get the metal gear, and then you can go to the left and then you go over the pipes, and then you can turn on the vent tile there, so the water drops onto the floor. Because before that, there is a broom blocking your way, and then the broom starts moving, and he wants to get rid of the puddle that is on the floor then, which is an amazing idea. And of course, it resembles the German poem Goethe's The Magic's Apprentice, I think would be the right translation. And Fantasia, right, from Disney.
Fantasia for the less cultured among us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse doing it.
Yeah. And then Goethe, some 100 years before he wrote that, or not 100 years, but no. But of course, I loved it. It's the broom looks like in Fantasia. It's like the typical broom, like a witch broom in a cartoon, and then I know we discussed this in the beta. Like, shouldn't there be the music from the Fantasia, like dim, 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 you know that when the broom comes to the puddle? Why didn't you do that? Because I was so sad about that it wasn't implemented.
It would have been too obvious, wouldn't it? I think it's better as just a subtle reference if you get it, and otherwise it's just a puzzle if you don't. Otherwise,
But I think
you didn't understand the music out of nowhere.
it would have been amazing. You know, we even sent you the files. You know, we like, here's the music. There was someone else in the beta test who also liked the idea, and but I think it would have been amazing. But yeah, it's still a really cool, simple puzzle, and very funny.
It's very
I
much
love that.
inspired by that and the whole. I mean, for me, probably memories of Mickey Mouse doing it. When I was sort of brainstorming, thinking about towers and all of that stuff, that was one of the things that came to my mind. So I knew I had to do some kind of puzzle with a mop.
We already talked about this a bit. Like, you have to collect pieces of a certain golem. At that part, you don't really know what it is, but so you find the arms and the legs over the mission, and then you come to the place where you need to reassemble. Is it the right word? Put the golem together, and and it's like that's also great. You know, you have that lava pit there, and then you have a garden with green, and you have so many different places, and suddenly you are in like a snowy landscape, which I really like from the theme, out of nothing. And and then you come there, you see a great castle-like place at the end of a bridge, but you can't get in there, and there are, like, at the beginning two buildings where one golem is totally workable, and the other one is missing its parts, and you have to put it together and get him to run. And then they open this for you, and this caused some trouble in the beta, but you fixed it. Like, you like those mechanics, right? Like collecting certain things together. I just think of the falling of the leaves that you just released for the contests. You have a thing for that, right?
I suppose I do. Yeah, I think it's back to the sort of point and click adventure thing again, of just getting stuff in your inventory, even if you don't know what it's for yet. I do like those kind of mechanics.
I think you had to sort of collect-a-thon or whatever you want to call it for your Thief 1 anniversary mission in the second part. I forget what it's called. Catacombs of Nos.
Yeah. Yes,
that had... Sorry, go on.
That had the you had to collect the what are they called? Talismans to get into the bottom, and then you had to collect all the parts of Nos. You had to collect like his heart and his eye and
yeah, and the I think the biggest collectible thing you have was in the violent end. I think that was the thing, to love it or hate it. I actually liked it. I don't know why, because normally I hate things like that. But this, I wanted to know what's behind that door, and yeah. But it's not for everybody, I think. But here in Malazar, of course, it was just 4 parts, and you come across all of the parts during the process of the mission. So it was a cool mechanic, I think. And the golems are. Have we? Where are they from? Have we ever seen them in another mission?
No, I just made them for this one.
Ah,
They're
great.
basically ape beasts that I dragged into Blender and just changed the head shape a bit.
Yeah, yeah, but I like them. They look really cool. Of course, it would have been amazing if they were snowmen. Like
Yeah, like ice golems. That'd be interesting.
And after that, like I would say, it's the final area. Then you have that. Yeah, that's the castle thing, and where those. Yeah, let's say call them ice beasts. I think they are based on the tree beasts, right?
In terms of motions, I think the model was just something from the model website that I downloaded. But yeah, they came out pretty good. I actually redid all the audio for them as well, but you can't really tell. I took all the tree beast voice samples and
All right.
changed the pitch on them a bit and added some cracking ice sound effects behind it. But it's
And what I really. Oh, sorry.
it wasn't as effective as I was hoping. It's not as noticeable as you might think.
No, but you could hear that. I recognized it, and but I think what's this part is a bit goofy. I think like it's like a platformer. Suddenly, you have to imagine, for the listeners, there's like a big wall, and then there are like wooden planks before that. Wait, what was that? Did someone leave? No. Mike, you can leave, please. What's yeah, Brethren just joined our voice chat. Why? Yeah, we have to tell him it's in 1 month where we record, maybe. So no, and then there are some platforms that they already seem to be distinguishable, and from the others. And when you accidentally jump on them, you know the mechanics that they break. And I like the mechanics when the beasts walked on them and then they just fell down. That was a really cartoonish moment for me.
So satisfying.
Yes,
It's very very difficult to get that working because
yeah, I thought so. That would have been my question.
And the AI does not know how to handle that, so there's a lot of trickery involved in how the pathfindings worked out. Make them walk on them. I think actually elevators that go down.
Yeah, I think you made them like
fast.
invisible elevators. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
yeah, it's a little bit goofy. I know what you mean, but it was.
yeah, but in a good way, it's entertaining. But it looks really cool, like those real evil ice beasts, and then they walk on that platform, and then they're just like, like gone, like the coyote.
Yes.
I like that. That was would have been, there is my mind again. The guy who wants music to the broom, and then if they would have like stand for like 2 seconds in the air, and then like what?
Yeah, that definitely probably wouldn't be possible in the engine, I think. Not even more trickery.
Yeah, maybe next time, in Malazar's other inscrutable tower. No, but I think you are way too creative to make a sequel, because you come up with so many great ideas. So,
well,
yeah.
it's more that I get bored of an idea as soon as I've done it, so I just try and make something new each time.
Yeah, but to be
Then
honest,
again,
let,
patience.
let's be honest here. Like, oh, sorry, did you? You lagged. Sorry, I thought you were finished.
Oh, don't worry. I was just rambling.
Yeah. No, but in general, like, that's the thing. Like, your missions are so themed so differently every time. Like when we talk about falling off the leaves, that is totally different again and has so many little great things. Especially the funniest part, I think, of turning off the leaves. A spoiler was the thieves guild or a gang, and how they try to disguise themselves. I don't want to get into detail here, but this was so great. I loved that, and I think I've never seen something like that in a mission. So yeah, you have,
setting that up.
yeah, and especially with the where the sound comes from, and yeah, what I would have loved there, because I thought that is a mechanic that will work, because you could grab the masks from if you knocked out someone. And I thought that since you're a thief, that you could put on that mask, and then it works like in Thief 1 in the mission where you just in the hemorrhoids, the acolyte, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Should have done that. Oh well.
No, because I think, it's a nicked mission, right? So, and I can grab the mask, oh great, I can disguise myself. I could use their disguise as my own, and no, it didn't work. Yeah, that
second Godbreaker. You wanted what he did in Godbreaker, Random Tapper with the Cray Beast mask that makes
right. Actually, the same.
Yeah, it's been done to do it. Not that it didn't occur to me or anything.
Of course.
Yeah. No, yeah, and actually, the ice area is mostly the final part. And then you get back after that there's another teleport, right? When you get to the stairway there, and you can't go back.
You essentially come to a third copy of that stairwell that then teleports you back to the first one.
But what I also liked was, and that showed me how interconnected everything is. There's a secret place. You can jump on that one balcony, and then you get to a certain room. And there at the end of that room, there's a hole. And when you put a rope arrow up into that, you can go down to the first statue with a window you have to unlock. Which was actually, I thought, like, damn, it must be so hard. And that's why I was thinking that you have put so much planning into this, to make it as interconnected as it is. But I'm really impressed that you just do this by building.
Well, I mean, the fact that I was using the seamless teleports made it a lot easier to make everything interconnected, because I didn't have to worry about physically connecting things in space. I could just be like, okay, back to this point, how am I going to do that? So it's a lot easier to design that stuff than it would be if I was like using the laws of physics.
Yeah, but still, you have to come up with that. I discovered the hole when I was first time in front of that statue. Of course, I was checking the room. But that you just get there at the end of the mission mostly. I think that was really cool. If you forgot something, then you could go back and have like, how do you call it? A quick. English people, please help me here.
Like you could go back and search for any loot you missed, I guess.
A shortcut.
Shortcut, yeah, okay, cool.
So yeah, that was really cool, because I imagined, like, oh damn, think of, you want to check if you really found all the loot, and then you have to walk back all the way or stuff like that, and then that was a really cool thing. And yeah, then you are outside again. Suddenly you are at the starting location, and you have to find that what is it?
The
natural
gem.
rope.
Oh, the rope to get back down. Yeah, the vine.
Oh.
Vine, right? Yeah.
Originally, that was a lot more difficult to
It was really
notice.
well
Oh,
hidden
yeah.
at first, wasn't it? Didn't
Yeah,
mean it to be, but
yeah, it was really hard to find. I think most of us had trouble. But yeah, but I like that, and then you come out and it's like cool. I just had a cool trip. Yeah, it's not a long mission. I made a walkthrough on our YouTube channel and it's like 50 minutes. But it's really cool. Of course, in the walkthrough, I knew what I had to do. So it's, of course, for the first time you play it way longer. But yeah, it felt like a little gem I really, really liked and I really appreciated. And that's why I changed the topic from Violent End, which I also loved. But this one is something very special. We don't get missions like that very often, I think.
yeah. No, it was a lot of fun to build. It's probably the most fun I've had building a mission, I think. Just because it was so like I could just be completely creative without having to worry about too many constraints with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you can see that, there's so much creativity, so much, yeah. But next, you have been quiet for a while. What is your reception of the mission?
Well, I've gone through my questions, but I do have a. I mean, it is. It's interesting how, when Nick had to do a wizard's tower, he sort of morphed from a regular architect into this wizard architect, where you just there's a room already there. I'll just make a portal.
Yeah.
So the wizard's approach.
It gives you a lot of freedom, I can imagine.
Yeah, very much so.
But does it? I guess it helps you there, but probably, let's say you were making a very large mission, that would take up some object IDs, right?
Well, yeah, I ran out of object IDs making Violent End of Duncan Malveine. I had to delete quite a bit from that to make it fit. So yeah, it's definitely a danger. I do have a tendency to just is larger than it should be a lot of the time. So I'm quite happy with how Malazar ended up quite tight and self-contained.
Was that like a trial run for the 1 million units contest for you? Because that was a limitation that isn't falling into your
not deliberately. It was I just made Violent End, and that was enormous. And I still wanted to make something Thief, but I wanted to do something a bit more relaxing, a bit smaller, a bit more just to knock up a little something, and it turned out really well.
Talking of your missions in general, as I said, I went through them in general in release order. What I've thought is you like towers, right? Of course, in Malazar, it's obvious, it's a tower, it's in the title. But if I look at the Violent End, there's a lot of towers. And if I look at the Sturmdrang Peak, there's a lot of towers. Is a tower a thing that you like and you really love to implement them, or is it just by accident? Or but it occurred to me.
I think I just like really big architecture. Like, I love going to places in real life that look just too big. like if you've ever been to Edinburgh or like some of the fancy parts of London, classical architecture that's just buildings that look too big to be that ornate.
What Westminster, I think.
Yeah, Westminster, or even just like some hotels in Edinburgh, that sort of thing. Just those kind of enormous buildings. And so I feel like I'll build like just an enormous or like just a massive cave system. And then I always end up running into limitations when I try and do that. But yeah, I guess that's where it comes from, because if you're building something enormous and tall and imposing, it often ends up as a tower.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but it really, yeah, you can see that, there's something that are really recognized, and yeah. So I think in general with the Malazar mission, from my side, I would be happy with the way we dissected it. Is there anything you guys want to add? What hasn't been said?
No, same here.
No, we could probably move on to like more questions for NICKED. Well,
Yeah,
actually, I guess I have a question. I don't know if it's about the mission. Should I just save it for the questions, or should I just ask now?
ask now.
All right. So earlier you were talking about how where the unknown lurks was kind of like the inspiration for this mission. I was just curious, like, were there any other missions you drew from when you were creating this? Because the main one I thought I figured actually maybe inspired you was Into the Odd a little bit.
That definitely inspired some of the details. I was very impressed with just the level of surreal detail in that.
Yeah, I remember you wrote a review where you were saying like how it's an achievement in like not architecture. Well, yeah, but achievement in like atmosphere and how like surreal that mission felt. And, you didn't like the gameplay.
I didn't really enjoy playing, but I had to keep playing because I was just really enjoying the atmosphere. So even though bits of it were really frustrating to me, I just kept playing, just to get through any of the frustrating bits to see what was this mission going to throw up next, because it was just really fascinating. So yeah, that definitely was fresh in my mind when I started building Malazar. Like I said, I replayed some of Haplo's missions beforehand to sort of get into that puzzle game mindset. Those are probably the main ones, I think.
Okay, yeah, like it's always curious like what people draw inspiration from when they create a mission, because sometimes it's like they say like, oh yeah, I draw it from this, and then you don't actually feel it like as a player when you play it.
Yeah,
it's just always interesting.
And there's, I mean, a lot of the time it's subconscious as well. So something like if I'd have just finished making Malazar, I couldn't tell you what inspired me by it. It's only sort of replaying it.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that Malazar might be a huge inspiration for others as well later, that because it's a very unique creative mission with a lot of elements we haven't seen so far. And maybe, the statue thing maybe makes people think outside of the box. Okay, what else can we do that is unexpected in that way? Or maybe how to unlock that window, and or with a maze, inspiration from maybe art or something like that. It's very interesting, I think, how it's interconnected again, like everybody is taking inspiration from others, and I think that's a great thing, and it's cool to hear.
I've definitely been inspired by it when I create, because I think the brushwork in this mission is just like phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I love looking at like how you did the rooms, and I try to like get ideas and how I can generously copy like
away,
like how you did the beams, or like or the pillars along the walls.
So next mission by you every object moves when you don't look at it, right?
That would be quite a challenge.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Yeah.
So I know Nex has also a question that's very interesting. It's
hell yeah. Nick, this mission involves, a lot of scripting work. A lot of it is very, very impressive. And for anybody that's trying to make a mission, I know that when I had to start thinking about scripting for my mission, I was always thinking about, I'll get somebody from the community to do them for me. But since you've done such impressive work, it makes me think, well, maybe I can make some primitive stuff myself as well. but it's always very daunting to, you have to go scripting. And I'm a programmer by trade, I guess. But still, it seems like I'll have a lot of problems with it. So what I'm asking is, what would you say to the DROMed community? How do new creators get into scripting? What's the best way to start? Where they can get more help? And
The first
Ask
thing
Yandros.
yeah, I'll say the first thing.
Sorry, what was that?
Don't worry about it. Like, if you're making your first mission, I would say keep your scope as small as possible.
Yeah.
And don't until you've really got a good foundation to build on. Just make a standard mansion break-in. Doesn't matter if it's derivative. Just knock something out. Try and get something small done, because there's get something finished. That's half of the. As hundreds of my uncompleted missions can attest to. But in terms of getting to the point where you're implementing like advanced scripting, I think it's just thinking about what you achieve, and then from there work out, okay, what do I need to learn to make this happen? What do I need to look into? How could I do this? And I mean, the main thing for me is just I wouldn't consider myself an expert scripter. I just search the forums really well. Like, anything I can think of, someone's already tried it, and there'll be a thread on it somewhere that I can then read and be like, oh, okay, I can see how I can maybe apply that to what I'm trying to achieve.
so you'd say the best way to go about it is the forums, the Discord. Yep. There's probably not a guy making tutorials on YouTube like we're all used to for other stuff.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many. I mean, there's my drone base reference a few times, but for the more advanced stuff, yeah, it's mainly just figuring out what to search for on the forums, and then you find discussions and stuff of how people have looked into it before.
Become friends with Fire Mage, maybe.
Or Yandros, yeah.
Yeah. I think you can't really generally answer that. I think it's a process. Look at how many. It's like 14 years you do missions now, if I'm right. 2006 or one. Yeah, I think was.
2006 was the first one. Cool,
Treason and Plot, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and then From Beneath the Sands, Pirates Downfall, Memoirs of a Dead God, and so on. And it's interesting how the jump, how the size of the missions increased. But is there maybe? So I think Next maybe wants just to give like an advice to new creators, like. Where do you search for certain things? Like, is there a page? Is there one post or one meeting room where you really should join if you want to do things like that?
TTLG Editors Guild.
Okay.
Even if a lot of the people have moved on to the DromeEd Discord now, which is also a really good place to hang out and ask questions. But in terms of just searching for stuff like scripting advice or anything like that,
yeah. That has like years of
a wealth
threads
of
and stuff, yeah.
Information on there.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I think we now come to the community questions. Since they haven't been. One has been about. We already answered that, but one question was from Beuchlein. Now I know how to pronounce the name, because we had him several times already asking questions, and he's a German, because the word Bäuchlein is a German word, and I was always like, what is going on? And so I asked him yesterday how to pronounce his name. So it means small belly. It's a cute form of belly in German. And I would be big belly then. So he was asking, I just read the whole thing because I like him. Yes, I would also be interested in areas that were cut from his missions, although I merely think of Sturmdrang Peak campaign. So, yeah, are there things that have been cut from those?
Every
Pretty
yeah.
vast question, you know. There's a lot of
almost
things.
every mission has something cut.
Yeah,
was
right.
just
My
I know.
experience.
But I want to mention the questions from the community because I appreciate them.
Yeah, so from Sturmdrang Peak, I mean, a lot got cut from that because it changed so much over the course of making it. The final mission changed completely. Originally it was just 5 missions, and the final mission was on the ship. That was the finale, and you got and you had to like sabotage the. It's going to be the end of it, and then in beta testing, all the testers were like, "Yeah, it's good, but this final mission only takes about 20 minutes, and it's a bit anticlimactic." So I sort of went back to the drawing board on that, and then I think there'd be a mission where you ended up continuing up the mountain to sort of the icy, snowy mountain top, and found like an old temple up there. And it had a whole bit where you sort of climbed up the side of a mountain and it was snowing. And that ended up just being too big and out of scope for Old Dark at the time. So that ended up getting completely scrapped. And then the 6th mission ended up just becoming what it is now, much more like jungle, horizontal exploration rather than exploring up the side of a mountain. But I think that kind of ended up probably inspiring the icy bit in Malazar. So it's almost like if I do cut something, it might be cut from that mission, but it's still in my head. So I end up reusing a lot of stuff later if I still think it's a good idea.
Okay. I have one question to you say Sturmdrang, right?
Yes. Am I saying it wrong?
Because the thing is, Sturm und Drang was an epoch. Is that the word epoch? In German literature. I think, I don't know, it was 18 or 1900 something. That was an era, part where, you know, certain poems and novels have been developed in Germany, or what it was called then. And I was wondering, like, where does the name come from? You know, because
it does come from that, but not for any actual good reason, just because I like the sound of the word. When I put Sturm and Drang together, it just sounded cool.
Yeah, Sturm und Drang doesn't sound as cool as Sturm and Drang, because German always sounds a bit, but yeah, I was really curious about that. Bäuchlein's other question was, you already answered it. Yeah, how did the idea of Malazar's tower come to mind, and how did the first idea change while the mission was being constructed and developed? Or is there anything you can add to that certain question?
I mean, I would say that it's probably the one mission I've made that's hewed to the original plan. Like, it didn't change very much. Most of the missions I've made, I've had an idea and then had a different idea later on, and it's just gone off on a tangent. But that one, I had a pretty clear idea of what it was going to be from the outset. It was only the details changing.
Okay. Next questions would be Cletremus. Great guy. He already was a guest on the show. So yeah, and he's a supporter of the podcast from the start. And he said, like, I've only played the Turning of the Leaves out of his missions. I'm interested in first, which part of that map did you start making first and last, and how that mission evolved throughout the process? In other words, were all the areas in the mission in your head before starting it, or did they spawn as part of the creation process? Um,
Yeah, no, I started the mission where the player starts. Pretty much just built it straight south from there. I didn't have it mapped out. I had the rough concept, and that didn't change. But really, the idea was I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could get something that felt like a large open exploration kind of level into that tiny space requirement for the contest. So that's kind of where the initial idea for that came from. So the first thing I built was just trying to figure out, can I make a really small corridor that looks like a forest? Can I even do that? And once I figured out that I could make something that looked kind of like a forest but was only 16 units high, I just kind of went from there. I knew I wanted a big underground area, but about as much as I knew at the start. So I basically just started building and left as much space again under where I was building. That ended up being the thieves' hideout, and it just sort of developed from there. Definitely didn't have any of the interiors thought of. It was more just what would be a cool thing to come across in a forest, and how can I make this forest into a twisty maze-like sort of area.
I think you succeeded what you just described. Like, can you just do that small corridor part that also, gives you the impression of a forest? I think this is one of the few times where someone succeeded in that, because there have been so many examples where it's just like, like a wall paint of a forest everywhere. But this one actually kind of course, in the engine, you can never do it in a believable way. But I think you succeeded in that. It gave me the feeling, that this is a forest and has certain areas and hidden places.
I think the first thing I had to do was actually being a forest, because that's impossible in the engine, really. Like, it's never going to look like a real forest. So you kind of have to think, okay, within the limitations of this, how can I make something that feels, that gives like the atmosphere and the feeling that I want?
Elect. Are you still there, Nicked?
Hello? Yes?
Yeah. Okay.
Did I cut off?
Certain times, but I think that, or I don't know, maybe you guys can also give me a feedback on that. But I think at the end, even if you cut off the context of is still, you can get it out of the context. Or would you agree, guys?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Another question by Clitramus was, did you run out of time or room towards the end of the contest period?
No, in fact, I think when I submitted it, Prim said it was the first mission he'd had, so I got it done in plenty of time.
I think,
yeah.
You finished it like by the end of October, pretty much, I think, or like early November.
Yeah.
Did I run out of room? There were a few bits where I had to little squeeze the odd bit in here and there, but not too much. Mainly because I planned ahead and knew that I was going to put something under where I was building now. So just careful building, I think.
Okay. And if you had more than 1 million units for the turning of the leaves, what else would you have implemented, expanded in the mission?
Interesting, because if I probably wouldn't have built that mission.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea was trying to do like the most contrary thing I could think of with the space limitations, really. If I had to expand it, I guess I'd probably just make it a bit less cramped. Just what's there a bit more. We just had more.
Did you guys understand the thing?
Sorry, is it
Actually, no.
crackling again?
Now it's really bad. But luckily it's not the main topic, so it's okay, and it changes.
It might show up well on the recording anyway.
Yeah, let's hope for that. Sorry for the listeners. The last episode with Stealth Dogs was kind of similar.
Let's come back and do some ADR.
British internet seems to be the problem here. And then there was one question by again, and guys, can you just name yourself user 1 and 2?
Gamma-Fight.
Gamma-Fight, thank you, Psychosis. That was a German pronunciation of your name. I have 2 questions. In missions so far, was there anything planned for immersion that didn't come to pass? Are those roadblocks still around, or is there a dream setting for an FM that he may or may not do in the future?
Ooh, things for immersion that didn't come to pass. I mean, not.
That question is kind of
very
hard.
Yeah, now
I know.
I'm
It's
very familiar with the game engine. I kind of know what I can do and what I can't. I think that the furthest I've ever pushed immersion in terms of like is in an end, because you've got the guards in that mission that turn lights back on. They switch between melee and ranged weapons, that sort of thing. I don't think there was anything I tried in that mission. I just had a scrap of it. I might like. I mean, even in that mission, everyone who's asleep, if you wake them up, they have a full scripted routine that they'll go and do if you don't alert them. So, immersion-wise to that, I did have an idea that I cut from Beneath the Sands. That was cut because I didn't know how to do it. All of the books and scrolls you found were going to be in hieroglyphs, and you had to take them back to the entrance where there was going to be a guy who was like your guide, and he would give you a translation that you'd given him so that you could then figure out the puzzles and stuff. And I didn't have a clue how to get it to work at the time, but it's probably for the best. I think that would have been really annoying.
A little bit.
So the engine actually the limitations made it better.
I mean, I could do that now, but I wouldn't, because I don't think that would be a good idea.
Okay. So you at that time you were maybe you wanted to test yourself or to do more than necessary, if I get that right.
Yeah, and I sort of like. I mean, you always have ideas that later on don't seem as good. At the time, I was like, yes, this is going to be amazing. It's going to be so immersive. You're going to have to translate everything. Now I'm just like, yeah, that would be no good. You'd have to. It'd be really frustrating.
Yeah, it would just be going back and forth and
Yeah,
backtracking a lot.
and being like, where did I find this scroll again? I can't remember. What does this relate to? Yeah, it wouldn't be much fun, I don't think.
Yeah, sometimes, as I mentioned before, that you seem to like, certain mechanics, and putting things together, and but I think if it's too much, yes, you can do it too much. We have seen that in many games that have like, oh, we have this great idea, and at the end it's just not the best. It sounds great on paper, maybe, but
Yeah.
But as I said, in most missions, I think that your mechanics have the right amount of time you spend on them. I think what I liked about the turning of the leaves was that you collect all those flowers, and of course at the beginning you don't know what it's for. When you know Nick, then it's like, okay, yeah, there will be something you have to mix them with, or you have to use them somewhere and then combine them. But I got really curious, what you will come up. I was a bit afraid, like, oh damn, they are growing back. How many do I need later? But yeah, I like that mechanic. I think the recipes and putting them together was a bit annoying. So I just did what I had to do. And what I needed for my progress. But yeah, I like the implementation of that.
So many people complained about that.
Yeah, a lot of
the
people
flower
did.
collecting.
It was very.
But it's like 90% optional. I don't even.
That's what I said. I just did what I had to do, so I was fine with it.
Yeah. You didn't even. I don't even think you needed to do anything with the flowers.
Yeah, but
really.
to get no.
If you want to complete all the objectives, you do need to do some of it. Yeah, but you can complete the mission without ever picking up a flower.
Yeah, but I think some area is not accessible if you don't. Well, you want to explore everything, and I think you need a certain object that you create there to see everything, if I remembered correctly.
There's a couple of bonus objectives that need it, yeah.
But it was okay, It's just, I think, one or two things that I needed to create, and I could ignore the others. I think they are just helpful, maybe for players, that need a certain support from what could you create, a moss arrow, or could you invisible potion or something like that, or a health potion. If you need that, you can do that. It's actually pretty cool. If you can get supplies by that you maybe need for your skills.
Yeah, it was just part of it was just having fun trying to figure out how to get this machine to work and have working recipes.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think I underestimated how seriously some people would take the flower collection. People just picking up flowers and getting annoyed when really they didn't have to, but maybe didn't realize
the
that
inventory is very full then, and thief inventory is not very comfortable. That's maybe the bad part of the medal there. But
a lot of cycling, yeah.
I would,
but if you're pros like us,
better inventory in thief.
If you're pros like us, your key binding is so effective that it doesn't concern you much. But one question is, how important is the dead hammerite to the flow of electricity?
Basically, that came from. I knew I had this machine that had been locked in a secret room for like 50 years, and I was thinking it's not very realistic if it's still got power. So how can I power it? And I thought, I'll just make it like a joke about necromancy.
Yeah, that's the most obvious idea. So,
Yeah,
but is it electricity or is it magic?
Well, it's 100% not necromancy. I really had fun writing that readable. Very sort of being very, very defensive about its technology.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, I think for me it would be actually the winning mission, but we will cover that in our contest episode at the end of February. Yeah, it was a very unique entry, I think, the mission.
It's been quite divisive. I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, it's great, it's the best one in the contest," and other people say,
there's psychosis.
I couldn't even get into it. I gave up straight away. You know, but I mean, I didn't intend to challenge myself.
It's one of the few forest missions that I liked, because I'm actually not a fan of places like that. But and in the beta, you invited me to the beta, and I didn't have so much time, and I saw it and was like, oh no, no, I don't want to put, because in the beta you have to replay it, and I thought like, no, I don't want to replay the forest mission.
And it's funny because originally he didn't even have a name for it, and it was just called Forest Mission.
Yeah.
so you probably read the title and you were like, nope.
Ow. Yeah.
And now it's like the violent end of Autumn Leaves.
Well, that didn't have a name either for a long time. Couldn't think of a name for the violent end of Duncan Malveine.
Yeah, I think the title suggests that you didn't have a very on-point name for that.
It's the one thing I always really struggle with, is coming up with decent names for things.
Yeah, I think Malazar's Inscrutable Tower was amazing, because it tells you right what you might expect,
I don't know. Yeah. I think Violent End of Duncan was one of the better names I've heard.
It's an interesting name, and it's not like it's not like what are those what we had in the contest as well with the blah 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 blah. The mission I talk about. It was an interesting
mission.
Yeah, right.
Missions, really long names.
Right, and the Violent End at least gives it some. It's unusual for a thief mission, like to have a name like that, because it seems like a movie, like from the title.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I got the idea from a book on my bookshelf called the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle.
Ah,
really book. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, that's an interesting format for a title. I could use that.
So Turning of the Leaves could have been like the contest entry of Nick Devlin.
It could have been.
Yeah, but yeah. So from my side, I think we covered Malazar, and we covered some of your other work. Guys, what else is there on your minds?
So this isn't on my mind, but actually there was one more question that was asked in the thread while we were recording this.
Really?
Yes, by Lord Taffer. He goes, I'd like to know which one or ones of his FMs he regards to be his best, in reference to NICKED.
I thought of the same question, but I thought, no, that's hard for a creator. But yeah, now it's thanks.
It is hard to kind of.
It's hard because I'm never 100% happy. Like,
yeah,
every single one I make, I'd have done that better.
But that's normal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably Malazar, to be honest. I think that's the one that I've felt most happy with how it's come out. Like, it does exactly what I wanted it to do. There's very little I would change with if back to it now. Whereas almost all my other missions, I would change loads about them.
So we've chosen the right mission to talk about, actually, which is very nice to hear.
And then his last question was actually, you kind of answered this earlier, which was which mission was the most fun to build, but he also adds which one was the most painful. I think you said earlier Malazar was actually the most fun.
Well, Malazar was the most fun. Violent End was definitely the most painful because I kept running into problems with it.
So you went from a terrible experience to a great one.
I wouldn't say a terrible experience, but it was definitely it was the most challenging one I've done. That one certainly. Just trying to keep I've got something like 5-page spreadsheet just detailing all the different random things that can happen in the mission.
Oh my!
And that's even before I did this count.
By the way, I never figured out who did the murder in Violent End?
I think it's random.
I can't tell you because there's 9 different random ones.
Great. So I replayed it several times. It's just
I
a
haven't
small
even-
one, so
Beaten it yet.
Violent End is. I can totally understand when people like it has certain elements that can make it a bit frustrating. But I don't know. I like the architecture. I love the whole theme, and I like when you're like an investigator and like you want to find out things like that.
It's
I
too
love that
big.
mission. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
no,
It's
it is too big.
No.
I haven't gotten around to it because everyone tells me that you need like 3 to 4 hours to play it.
If you want to
Yeah,
do
and-
everything, it will take you at
If
least
you want to do
4
most
hours,
things, yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
Clitremus is still at the
I'm
starting
like,
point, but
I don't
no,
have that kind of time.
Well, if I'm,
yeah. Next, did you say
I don't know.
something? Are you back?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that you think it's too big because we've had some missions that. I mean, I've had missions where like I played 4 hours straight, didn't get to the end, had to do it another night for maybe a couple hours again. I
Spent
didn't have
days
such
in
a
it.
problem with.
I mean, when I say too big, I mean like architecturally too big. I don't think it takes too long to complete.
Objection. I think from my point of view, I think the architecture is actually amazing because what many big missions have as a problem, mention mission, is that they can be disorientating. But this mission actually, for me, felt like it had a lot of landmarks inside and outside, so that I can orientate myself. And I think to complete, and that is, I think, the problem people had. So many cards you have to collect. You want to find out that final thing and you want to see that. And this takes a lot of time, of course, even if you have I think it's the 4 books that tell you about the. Who was it? There was one guy complaining so much on the forums about that the hints are not, take you on the nose and point you. Was it A Stahl? I don't know. I can imagine. I don't know. But that I can agree. When people say, "Yeah, that was a bit annoying," but for me, I don't know why. Because normally I would hate something like that. But here it was like, yeah, I want to finish that. I want to find that out, and I don't want to look it up on the forums. And I did it, and I was very proud of myself. So great mission. You changed me as a human.
Turned you into somebody who has to complete all the collecting.
Actually, yeah, it gave me a bit of patience in missions, maybe for the future. I don't know, but in some ways, not when you go to an underground cave with strange things happening there and beasts and whatever. But yeah,
I can tell that's why people are fed up like us.
Yeah, but but 3 weeks later you pull out the next mission and it's totally different, and then they can like this.
Hopefully.
3 missions in 1 year is really impressive. So.
Yeah, and so different ones, that's
Yeah.
that. But
Definitely.
Don't quite know how it happened. Just
are you working on something at the moment?
I've taken a bit of a break from Thief at the minute. I am working on something, but I'm working on learning
How do you use what?
to make Unity to make my own games.
Okay.
Oh, he's making the next step. Okay.
Oh, there's an Android game coming out soon. No, actually, Unity today, it's a cliche, but I just played Desperados 3 and it looks amazing, and yeah, today you can do great things with it.
Yep, you certainly can. It's been a lot of fun learning it. But yes, I'm sure I will go back and make a Thief mission again at some point soon. But yeah, nothing on the cards right now. I've got one in progress technically, but I've not touched it in a long time.
So, bad news for the community, but yeah, that's how it goes.
You had 3 in 1 year. You can live.
And 4 episodes in 4 weeks might also be a thing. Well, let's see. Yeah. So, any last thoughts? Next is on the toilet. Maybe we wait for him, but I think he's also through.
Yeah, I'm back.
So, did you flush?
Definitely.
Good. So yeah. Anything else you guys want to add?
I think we covered everything I would be pretty much asking or interested
My
in.
side as well was very interesting to hear.
Same here. I just hope Nick keeps dabbling with.
I shall. Yes.
Ah, there he goes. Boom.
Little dead joke for you.
That's my part. So yeah, now I know how you guys feel every time. Feels really great.
All right.
Great joke, Nex. That was amazing. Yeah. So you learn from the best. Yeah. So Nick, yeah, keep on the great work, even if you take a break. That's totally understandable, I think, after all you've given us in that really bad last year. So thank you for taking your time and answering all our questions. I hope that you guys can live with the internet connection quality and that your questions have been answered. Yeah, it's a great mission. If you didn't play the mission, you shouldn't have come to that part of the episode so far. And I would advise you play through Nick's catalog of missions.
Yeah.
One thing, I have the feeling that the Sturmdrang series is your more famous one. Do you think that is correct? Or most famous, I would say.
Arguably, yeah. It's certainly the one people mention the most. People have fond memories of it.
It's interesting because this is the mission or the mission series. I'm not a fan of that. I don't know. Oh yes, I can name why, but it's interesting because the name drops here and there, and I replayed it, and it was like, I don't know, what it is, but I think I like your missions that are really concentrated on that one theme, that one topic, and then you surprise me with the next thing. It's totally different, and that's what I really appreciate about your work. But maybe that's why people liked that you did a mission series. Or
well, Sturmdrang Peak, it very much sort of grew organically. It was originally going to be one mission, and it just ended up being this thing
by accident.
Out of control. Yep. So I'm not surprised if it feels a bit like disjointed or sort of not very focused.
I just think that the big buildings, the village was cool. I think that the castles or whatever, it was a bit repetitive. Like it felt like a bit copy pasted rooms, maybe just different colored. But there's a lot of things that repeat, in my opinion. But yeah, that's I don't know. But that shouldn't be the topic. As I said, thank you so much, and thank you, Tefers, for listening. It was great to have Nex and Psychosis finally with me again. And next episode, Blackmail. Original mission finally after a year or what? And now
psyched about that.
Yeah.
Oh, was that one of the...
Yeah, but Jark is still. Jark is the more reliable, even if he's the evil brother. That's interesting. So yeah, as I said, thanks for listening. Thanks for being here with us, and see you, Tefers, next time. Anything you want to say, guys, as a bye-bye? Nick, any last words?
Well, just thank you very much for having me on and talking. It's been great fun.
Yeah.
Bye. That's it.
See ya.
Bye.
Wait. One moment. Brethren, anything you want to add? No, I don't think he has his microphone connected. Yeah, so thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye-bye.
That's what I needed to hear.